All right, welcome to the studio. So since Kane and I have moved here, we have had so many questions from you guys about how to move here, visas, residency, how to set up a business, and we are obviously not qualified to answer those questions. So we've managed to convince Shellen to come and sit down with us and answer all of your budding questions.
So if any of this resonates with you, we've left a link in the description down below in the video. That will connect you straight with Shellen and you can talk to her and ask all your questions and whatnot. But yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Shellen.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to sort of start generally about Dubai. I think a lot of us have seen a lot of people relocating to Dubai. It seems like there's a lot of appeal for business owners, entrepreneurs, all that sort of stuff to be here. What are the main benefits of it?
I mean, I think a lot of it is to kind of state the obvious, right? Lifestyle, sunshine, which isn't too far from your normal lives in Australia.
True.
But for those of us from the UK, it is a dream.
Yeah.
So lifestyle's obviously up there. The second biggest thing is obviously the tax benefits, right? Even with the tax that's come in to do with corporate entities, it's still far, far, far less than anywhere else in the world. So combine that with the lifestyle and I think the opportunities as well. Like you guys will know, the people you meet here and everyone is so willing to help you.
Yeah.
It's just such a great place to be to elevate yourself, I think.
So there's obviously some serious business benefits about being here. Not only the tax benefit, but also I think like the access to other markets.
Yeah.
Europe is like sort of on the doorstep.
Yeah.
Have you found that a lot of business owners are loving that?
I mean, geographically, we are so beautifully located to pretty much do business with anyone around the world. So most of my clients, even if they are expanding their existing business, it still makes sense for them to have an entity here.
I've also noticed from our perspective, just traveling, it's so easy and so cheap to get pretty much anywhere in Europe or even back to Asia. Like this is a very central part of the planet.
I think that was one of the biggest things that convinced me to move here because we spent a lot of time in Greece and flying back from Greece, it was 4.5 hours, which like coming from Australia, literally everything feels like it's like 25 hours away.
I mean, it is. That's what
I know.
It was like,
easier to get to Antarctica than like Europe.
Yeah, honestly, it really is. Pia goes to me, you do realise it's $229 to get to the Maldives. And I'm like, okay, we're moving.
Yeah, the travel element for us personally, like that's a major pull to be here. It's just so easy. I remember I asked you at lunch, I was like, where's your favourite place to go shopping? And you went, Turkey.
That was one of our first conversations.
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
I mean, it's a very genuine answer though. That is literally like 2-3 times a year I'll fly to Turkey and just do some shopping because obviously it's still quite expensive here in terms of the shops, right?
Yeah.
And where it is so close and relatively cheap to get to, why not?
Yeah.
We've got that in the pipeline. We're going soon anyway.
I know. We still have to plan that. So we should probably get into like the business setup. A lot of people watching this are probably interested in doing this sort of thing themselves. So I wanted to ask, if you wanted to set up a business here, what are the first steps? How do you get started?
I mean, I think it's figuring out what you want to do for one. Obviously, if you've got an existing business or model or something happening, then it's fairly easy. We'll just replicate it and I'll let you know what you need to do. If it's something completely brand new, then I'll be part of that process, helping you with that as well.
People would come to you and explain how their existing business structure is set up in their home territory. And then you'd replicate that over here if they were to move over. Is that what you mean?
So there's different ways of approaching it for different people, right? It really depends on each individual, which is why I'm in a job, because I have to ask a lot of questions, figure out what their short-term plans are, what their longer-term plans are. If this is something that they're setting up for now to kind of get it moving, but then their plan is to move here in 2-3 years, for example, we might set it up in a slightly different way. Yeah. Something that doesn't require a location. It really, really depends on each individual. There's no kind of one size fits all with this at all.
So one thing that I knew that we went through with this process was there were different zones in Dubai. Can you talk a bit about that? Because I'm still not 100% certain why we are in that zone that you put us in.
This is how much they trusted me, guys.
We can't explain it,
That's
basically.
Fine, don't worry. So there are many throughout the UAE in terms of free zones. Then you've got the offshore jurisdictions and then you've got mainland. So mainland isn't something that we really looked at for you guys because your content is essentially outside of the country and you travel so much and you're filming kind of here, there and everywhere. And this is more to facilitate you invoicing because you're living here, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of why we did what we did with you. We knew you wanted to be in Dubai. So we looked at a very simple free zone, which allowed you to be set up in Dubai, which didn't need an office or any of the kind of extra stuff that would cost you money for no reason.
But let's say you wanted to come here and open up a gym or a restaurant or something like that. You wouldn't be looking at a free zone for that, would you?
Potentially. It depends where you want to be based. So it's very much based on the location, right? So if you want a particular location in a specific designation, we have to get the correlating license to that.
Location within Dubai?
Yeah. If someone wanted to be in JLT, that's governed by DMCC free zone. So even though it's a physical location, it's still within the free zone. So you have to have a DMCC license.
So because we operate as like effectively online e-commerce, that's why we got the free zone we got. Got it. Okay.
And so what is a mainland?
So Mainland is like a fully fledged business on the ground. So someone that is planning on doing business locally, really building the brand here, approaching government entities, approaching other mainland companies. And again, it depends on the business activity as well. Sometimes different activities fall under that. Again, location, if someone wants to set something up and it's in a specific location, we have no choice. So again, there's a lot of different factors that come into it when we decide where to locate you.
Yeah, so for us, the process was really easy. We basically had like a FaceTime call with Shellen where she ran through all of our business activities, how we invoice, how we make money, what we see ourselves doing in the future, in the next few years and stuff like that. And then based on that interview, she recommended the business license that we have here. So it's pretty simple. Like I was trying to research this beforehand, trying to figure it all out myself. And it's a lot to wrap your head around. But then as soon as I chatted with Shellen, it just sort of she did it. So if someone is considering relocating either their business or themselves here, do you need to be like a certain size business, have like a certain amount of revenue or anything like that? Or
no, absolutely not. If you're setting up something for the first time, which there are so many people that do that, whether they're living here already or just moving over and want to take a chance in a city where you've got that platform, you can absolutely do either. If you're already structured somewhere else and you want to replicate or expand, then we can do that. If you want to start something fresh, then come and do it. There's loads of people here to help.
And if someone has a business that they already operate in a different country and they want to move that business here, is that something they can do?
Yeah, they can create a branch or a subsidiary, or they can set up one here and then close that, whatever they want. Obviously, everyone's different, right? Everyone's kind of long game is different as well. Some people want to move everything here and cut off ties to everywhere else. Some people want, different branches in different countries to build the brand. So it really depends on the individual. But yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's assume you're a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Self-employed, you work in Germany normally.
Yeah.
And you want to relocate here. What would be a typical cost for that sort of sole trader effectively moving over here?
Kind of base price, you'd be looking from 15,000 dirhams, which is business license and a 2-year visa.
Effectively, what you're doing is you're creating the business license, which then sponsors the individual.
Correct. If you're legally married, you can sponsor your spouse. No problem.
Going into visas, what sort of visa options are available? Because you basically do a package, right? Like you can set up the business and then also set up visas for people so that they can come and live here.
So it depends. In terms of the visas, it's all different. It depends on each individual, right? So everyone kind of tells me what they want and then I will figure out what's going to be the best option. If someone has a partner that they are not legally married to and they have children, for example, we'd probably look at putting them both on the business license and then one of them sponsoring the kids, because one can't sponsor the other.
Yeah, okay. So you would apply for 2 visas under that business. Okay, that makes sense.
With regards visas, I know there's a few different visas you can get and they all have a different stipulation of how many days per year you need to be here. Can you just highlight what those kind of days requirements are?
So the majority of visas require you to enter the country at least once within every 6 months in order to keep that visa active. So for people that travel a lot, that's a really, really key bit of information. You need to bear that in mind. You cannot let it lapse 6 months. Otherwise, immigration will automatically cancel if you don't reapply for a re-entry permit and get it approved. Typically, the only reasons that they accept is if you had some kind of severe health issue which restricted you from being able to travel in. Otherwise, it's, why couldn't you come in for 6 months if you're a resident here? So that's kind of the typical rule for most visas. The only one that doesn't really have that is the golden visa.
And is with everything other than the golden visa, is there a minimum number of days you have to be here to kind of qualify that visa?
Not for the visa, but for tax residency, yes. If you want to be deemed a tax resident as an individual, you need to spend 183 days here.
Okay. I think that's pretty standard amongst many countries. So what is the benefit of having a golden visa over the traditional visa?
So the golden visa is essentially the closest you can get to having the citizenship here. You can't get the passports. None of us can apply for it. There are very limited ways of getting the passport. But I don't think any of us are ever going to qualify for that.
Okay.
So in terms of the golden visa, it's just the closest and the most freedom that you have.
And are there any tax benefits, or is it the same across?
Same.
Okay.
It's just a 10-year visa, right? So rather than renewing your visa every 2 years, you have that for 10 years. You don't have limitations in terms of having to travel in and out every 6 months.
Okay.
It's just the closest you can be to being a citizen. Why can't I say that word? Citizen.
In Australia, if you buy stocks and then sell them at a profit, you're then subject to paying capital gains tax in Australia. That's not the same here, is it?
No. So there's no capital gains here. There's no kind of inheritance tax that we're used to. I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but in the UK, that horrible, horrible inheritance tax, income tax, all of that is very different here, right? Obviously, as individuals, we don't pay income tax at all anyway. So if you're generating profit from your personal investments, you're not paying anything on it anyway.
Corporate tax is 9%?
Only if you cross certain thresholds.
Okay. What are the thresholds?
When you cross $100,000 in revenue, then you are technically liable for tax. The UAE released an initiative when they first implemented tax, because obviously it was a bit of a shock to all of us here, because it was zero for such a long time. So when they introduced the 9% corporate tax, they also released an initiative which allows SMEs to turn over up to 3 million dirhams per year. This is guaranteed until the end of 2026. Beyond that, we don't know what's going to happen, but knowing the government, they're going to release something to kind of benefit the SMEs and people that are really building here. So if your turnover is up to 3 million or less, then you're not paying any tax anyway.
Wow.
No tax, 0%
Zero.
corporate tax.
You're exempt. You still have to do the bookkeeping and kind of submit everything, but it's 0%.
Okay. And then long term, let's say you do make more than that.
Yeah.
Is it only 9% on
Profit.
but also on Dubai-based income or Dubai-sourced income, or all income?
So it depends on your business model. Again, there are places which fall under designated zones in the UAE, which are specific free zones, which are created for people who are doing trading, typically on a wholesale basis, only outside of the UAE.
Right.
Or within free zones. So those companies are actually exempt.
Okay.
So I've set up a couple of these recently, because obviously if you can pay no tax, then happy days. So if you've not got anything happening within the UAE, or it's limited to free zones only and it's on a wholesale basis, depending on the activities, we can set you up in a designated zone, which means regardless of how much you're making, you're not paying any tax anyway.
If my company paid me as a employee, I personally would be liable to 0% personal income tax, right?
Any money that you make here as an individual is tax-free.
Could I pay myself everything I earned from the company to me, basically?
So they did think about this, because obviously when this was first released and they said the tax was coming, everyone just said, great, I'll pay myself 100%, no problem. But obviously they're not silly. There were measures put in place. You have to be in line with the market average. There'll be a cap as to how much you can pay yourself based on the revenue generated from the business as well. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but this is just a salary, right?
Yeah.
And then you've still got expenses and everything else. So even if you did fall into the taxable bracket, then you just have to do what we do all over the world.
Yeah.
Work out your expenses and put it all together, and hopefully your tax bill's not going to be that high anyway.
I mean, 9% compared to where we all come from is still amazing.
So with regards investing as a resident, can we invest in homes? Like, how does it work with crypto? I know we can do stocks and shares here. Could you touch upon that a bit?
Yeah, of course. So as individuals, you can obviously do all of those things in your own personal names. Okay. From a kind of corporate structuring perspective, if you've got a longer term plan and you don't necessarily want them in your name and you want a wrapper around it, or some kind of asset protection vehicle, we can do that as well. But if you want to own it as individuals, of course, your tax residence here and it's tax free. but not all of us are going to be here forever, right?
True.
It's a very transient place. Things change, people move on. So most of my clients will look at some kind of corporate vehicle, like an SPV or a holding company, something to just kind of own it on your behalf.
So let's say you come here, you get your business set up and you've got your visa, and the next step is opening a bank account.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that a little bit?
We have a banking division who manage all of the relationships within all of the major banks. So depending on each person's business, what the minimum balance is, kind of where they're going to be operating around the world in terms of invoicing, currency, stuff like that, the team will talk about that with you and help guide you on the best option or options.
We've had to think about our driver's license and phone numbers and like all these things that they're not things that you have to think about on a day-to-day basis. But talking to Shellen, they've got like all different departments in their company. So they helped us with the corporate setup and then also our visas and then also the bank account. And now they're even helping us with our accounting to make sure that we actually maintain the company correctly and things like that. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop, and I found that really helpful.
I mean, I think you've got enough to think about, right, when you're moving?
Yeah.
Because you've just spoken about the stuff on the ground here, but what about before you came? Because this was the same for me. I had to pack up an entire apartment, put stuff into storage, find a tenant. You guys sold, so yours was a little bit...
Our couch is currently on a boat somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, so like there's a lot to think about, you know?
Do you know what I found also coming here and like socializing a little bit? So many people have sent me like lists of great places to go, the apps that you need, the contacts that would be helpful and stuff like that. And I found that wild.
Yeah.
Like a full on just like to-do list, download this, do this. And it's been just, people here are genuinely very lovely and very helpful.
We've slotted into life here in honestly 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's so easy though, isn't it?
And it feels very social. Like, truthfully, we had a little bit of apprehension when we were coming because, you know, we'd reached a certain amount of success in Australia. Our business is doing well there. All our friends and family are there. So to sort of blow that all up and then go somewhere new, we were just a little bit nervous about it. But then I think the first 3 weeks here, we've been so social. We already have like a little circle of friends and stuff. And like, you know, it doesn't feel like we're sort of in a new country, just isolated, like totally alone.
Yeah.
So, it's been a really positive sort of thing so far.
So far, it's been fantastic.
Yeah,
and I love
amazing.
Kareem. That app is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
The little things.
Oh, it's got everything I want.
Everything just seems to work.
Yeah.
Like it seems to work seamlessly. Things are fast and have been thought through. Like even government things, which in Australia, a lot of the time, if you have to deal with government things, it can take a month, you know, to hear back, that sort of thing. Here, when you have to go and do your visas, you have to go and do the medical. You have to basically get like an X-ray, I think, like tuberculosis.
TB X-ray and a blood test. I don't know what they're checking for, but...
And the whole
Just
thing
like
for us.
contractable
I think so.
diseases. It's
We got
like
there at
anything that can be passed on.
We rocked up at 7 a.m. Just because we got off a plane early. I was like, let's kill some time. Can't check into the Airbnb until midday. Let's go get my blood test done. We got there at 7 a.m. At 7:11, we were getting breakfast at Starbucks. It was like, hang on a minute, we've done everything.
Yeah.
And it was all like, there was a robot bringing me a drink. It was like, I'm in the
robot's a bit
future.
wild there, isn't it?
It ran over my toes. I was a bit like, hang on a minute, it's not that good.
And the same thing with setting up our phone numbers. Like once we had our Emirati ID, we went in and I think it was literally, we just came off a plane, it was 4 a.m. and we were like, there is no way that we can go get a phone number at 4
You can do it
a.m.
when you're walking out the airport.
I know.
No, is that what
We
you
did it at 4 a.m.
4:15
normal.
a.m. we had our phone numbers all set up. So if people wanted to chat to you and they wanted to actually come here, set up a business, get the visa, how long would you recommend that they book a trip here for to get it done?
So it really depends what they want to get done while they're here. Business license, immigration card, we can do both of those things before they even arrive in most instances, right?
So
there are
set up a
certain
meeting.
licenses that we can't, but majority, as you guys know, we can do completely remotely. They don't need to be here for the license. They don't need to be here for the immigration card. And then it's a case of, what are your travel dates? When do you want to get here? They book, come over, do the medical test, do the biometrics, do the visa process, and then they can have a nice holiday while they're waiting for that, and then they can leave.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any other questions, leave them down below, or we've also left a link directly to Shellen if you want to chat to her about your business setup or your residency. She's available to you. Thank you so much, Shellen. That was really helpful.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
So much fun. And we'll see you guys in Dubai.
Bye.
You guys got to say something.
Cut.
Why didn't you say anything?